In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 financial lessons that I would have taught to my younger self. Now, honestly, the first lesson I would have learned is compound interest. Now, for those of you who don't know what compound interest is, this is what I would have told my 20-something-year-old self. When it comes to calculating interest, there are 2 basic choices. There's simple and compound. Simple interest simply means a percentage of the principal amount every year. So for example, if I invested £1,000 at 5% simple interest for 10 years, I could have expected to receive £50 in interest every year for the next decade. No more, no less. On the other hand, compound interest is what happens when you reinvest the earnings from your investment, which then earn interest as well. Compound interest essentially means interest on the interest, and is the reason why many investors are so successful. Think of it in this way. Let's say I invested £1,000 at 5% interest. After the first year, I would have received £50 in interest payment. But instead of me putting that money in my pocket, I would reinvest it at the same 5% rate. So for the second year, my interest is calculated on a £1,050 investment, which comes to £52.50. If I then reinvest that, my third year will be calculated on £1,102 and 50% balance. So you get the idea. So compound interest essentially means that my original principal or balance and the interest it generates gets larger over time. The difference between simple and compound interest is massive. So in this example, we've taken £10,000 and seen the difference between what I would have received over a 30-year period with simple interest or a 30-year period with compound interest. Now, to be honest, this principle of compound interest, even though it's used quite a lot in the financial circles, you can compound anything. And what I've realized over time, and what I would have told my younger self, is to take this principle and deliberately use it to compound skills and experience. So for example, people ask me if I am speaking to a large crowd, do I get nervous? And the answer is no, because I've spoken in front of big audiences for so long, I have now compounded the skill, which means that as a speaker, I can get my message across more easily and more enjoyably. Another skill which is compounded over time has been built up from my experience of working with loads of professionals and individuals and entrepreneurs. So for example, an insight for me, which is compounded over time, is understanding the dynamic relationships that exist between 2 business partners or individuals that are going to be working in a project. And one of the lessons which is ingrained in me through that compounded experience is in recognizing the difference between what people say and what they do. So if I'm going into a new working relationship with anybody, it could be an employee, a new business partner, a new venture that I'm going into. And so what it means is I'm able to make a judgment on what people's capabilities are, not based on what they've pitched to me or promised or the big blue sky dreams that we all got excited on, but actually on simple things like, are they reliable? Do they turn up to meetings on time? Do they deliver on what they say they're going to deliver? All of the basic stuff which we know is required to build anything huge. The second lesson I would give my younger 20-something self is that there are no get-rich-quick schemes. Now, I know we all know this, except that I still see peers of mine, individuals who are in the same age bracket as me, who are falling for the get-rich-quick ideas or even the trends that are existing. Now, I'm old enough to have seen trends come and go and to realize that actually you need to create the trend for your individual skill set or experience and compound on that. Now, with that said, what I have learned is that there are ways to accelerate your progress or wealth creation or success in business or life, but it does come with some caveats. If you are able to do that, it usually means that you are able to leverage a skill or an experience which you have already compounded. So for example, let's say you really enjoy cooking and you've been doing this for 10 years just for fun. If you then want to start a cooking YouTube channel or a blog or an Instagram page, chances are, because you've been doing it so long, you'll be able to add loads of value to whoever it is that's following you. But you've not essentially started from scratch. You are leveraging something which you are already really good at. The third lesson I would have given my younger 20-something self is do not bet the farm. Now, I'm not sure where this term comes from, but I really like it. And it's a great visual of saying, look, a farm is usually something which is precious. Maybe it's been in the family for generations. And what you don't want to do is to lose it, because your farm typically is the place where you live and you generate all of your income. So it's something that you need to treat with care. And if an opportunity comes along, which means that you could lose the farm, you probably should not do it. Now, the trouble is there's loads of mixed messages which are being broadcasted on the internet across socials, Instagram pages and YouTube. And what this means is we're not able to properly assess when to use some of these tropes. So as an example, there's a young man I've been mentoring for some time now, and he's been going through some really tough situations and his mind isn't quite in the right place. He then wanted to revisit his trading activity because he's been trading on and off for some years with varying degrees of success, knows what he's doing. But I said to him, look, you don't really want to start trading when your mind is up and down and you're going through a number of troubling situations that you're working your way through. But I can guarantee that if you start trading now, that you are going to be challenged by your trading decisions based on what's going on in your life. It will have an impact. And he said to me, essentially, in brackets, stop being a hater, close brackets. I have very strong belief in myself. Now, when he said that to me, I couldn't then tell him, well, don't believe in yourself. I knew where he was going, except that having really strong belief in yourself is a little bit like me saying, I'm going to run the marathon, which I've done, but I'm not going to wear the right running shoes, or I'm not going to stay hydrated. But it's okay because I believe in myself. Now, you can have all the belief in yourself that you want. If you're running the marathon, you need to have the right shoes, you need to have trade, you need to have the right mindset, and you need to stay hydrated. Otherwise, it's not that you're not going to make it, but you could injure yourself, you could just have a really rough time. And essentially that's what I was trying to tell this young man. But I realized at the time he had to learn for himself. So if I was delivering that message to my younger self, I would say, look, it's great to believe in yourself because I did. And it's the reason why I call this video advice to my stubborn younger self, because when I was younger, I thought I knew it all. Some people will tell you I know it all still today, but I've come across enough challenges and problems in life to actually sit back and assess all of the different factors that go into the decisions I'm making, whether they're financial decisions, business decisions, decisions in life, and consider which have the greatest impact. So in this instance, the impact of having a troubled mindset is greater than the belief you're going to have in yourself when it comes to trading on the markets, because you're just not going to have a great time. Now, about a month later, he gave me a ring and said that he was revenge trading. Now, I didn't know what that meant, but I guess what he means was he had made so much losses in the market beforehand, he was trying to make up for those losses by revenge trading. And he said his mindset wasn't in the right place and he lost a lot of money. He saw it as a learning. This young man has got loads of bounce back ability and resilience. So he's taking it on as learning and he's got enough time to recover. But my younger self has done very similar things, and I bet the farm. In this instance, this young man essentially bet pretty much all of the worth in his portfolio, 80 to 90% of it. He can make it back, but did he have to go through all of that? Probably not, because he bet the farm. The fourth lesson that I would tell my younger 20-something stubborn self is that there is a difference between the money you work for and the money you earn and what you're able to do with that, and investing. So when I was younger, I used to think it was either or. I used to think that in order to generate wealth and income and to succeed in life, that investment or investing was the same thing as working for capital. The way in which a lot of these books that I read presented the idea, or the seminars that I went to, they overpitched it. They essentially said that if you're going to invest in stocks, the property market, whatever it might be, that you could almost do that instead of working. Now, I'm not saying that people don't do that. I'm sure they do. Now, I didn't think that was a great strategy for me, because starting on the edge of risk without the knowledge and experience of what to do when things go wrong would simply mean that I'll fall over, which I did. I would rather start in a safer space, build knowledge and experience, and then move towards risk, which is what I'm doing over the last decade, so that I can understand how the dynamics work, so I can realize that actually I'm risking a percentage of my time or money deliberately, or I'm now measuring the fallout and I'm prepared to do that, or not, as the case may be. So essentially, I would have told myself that, look, there is a way in which you generate income by working, either by exchanging your time for money, or you're developing products or services that you're leveraging, or you're building a team and you're able to compound and grow the income that you are creating in your business. And that's one revenue stream. That's one way of doing it. And at the same time, you should have a mechanism where you are taking a percentage of what you're earning and you're putting it into investment vehicles which have different risk profiles attached to them. So as an example of this, I asked Google, which I'll do now, what percentage of your portfolio should be for risk capital?
According to Investopedia, most sources cite a low-risk portfolio as being made up of 15 to 40% equities. Medium risk ranges from 40 to 60%. High risk is generally from 70% upwards. In all cases, the remainder of the portfolio is made up of lower risk asset classes such as bonds, money market funds, property funds, and cash.
Thank you, Google. So essentially it's saying that the lower end of your portfolio, of your pot of money, should be going into risk capital. Doesn't have to, but if you're going to risk, which is essentially, it's talking about equities, the stock market, which is volatile, let's be honest. If you are going to invest in something like the stock market, which is up and down, it should be between 15 and 40%, sounds like a lot, of your portfolio. Medium risk ranges from 40 to 60%, and high risk is generally 70% upwards. So that's the kind of advice that I would have taken. Lesson number 5, I would have given my 20-something-year-old stubborn self, is to surround yourself with individuals who know more than you about financial money management and business. Now, I managed to do that when it came to business and entrepreneurship, but it took me a long time to realize that just because someone knows how to make money, it doesn't mean they know how to save and invest money. When I was younger, it looked like those types of people were the same, but I guess we were all young at the time and nobody was necessarily thinking about what was going to happen in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They certainly weren't thinking about pensions and long-term saving plans. All of that stuff sounded way too boring because we were going to get rich overnight, right? So what I would have said to my younger self is to look for individuals who are in the position that you would like to be. So speak to the 40, 50, 60-year-olds who seem to be sitting back, looking pretty, and ask them, how did they do it? Ask 5 of them, ask 10 of them, take them out for lunch, take them out for a drink, do whatever it takes to get half an hour with them and just say, look, how were you able to build your wealth? What does your pension and savings plans look like? And what advice would you give to me? Now, being slightly older, I know if a young person came to me to ask for advice, I'm going to flood them with all of the things that I did right and wrong because it's endearing to see someone think about their future in that way. And so actually there's loads of people out there who want to hand over their advice. I guess a lot of the time they don't do it because they don't think that younger people are interested, which actually isn't too far from the truth because when I was younger, I wasn't that interested either. So the question you may ask is, how are you going to look for receipts? How are you going to work out if somebody is actually good at what they're doing? If they are an entrepreneur, it's not that difficult. I'll tell you in a second. If they are just an investor, then you can use platforms like Crunchbase to look up the companies which they said that they've invested in, and you can see how well they're doing. If they are an entrepreneur or a business owner, you can look them up on Companies House. I mean, I showed my son, who helps me to get this channel going, just last week actually, to how to look on Companies House at the filings to work out how much a company is making. Now, that's not the end of the story. We all know as entrepreneurs, there are loads of dynamics around what makes somebody successful, but it is just one indicator, and a very useful indicator. If you can see the director history and the filing history of a particular company, it gives you a picture that you can start to make some sense of. And the very last piece of advice that I would give my younger 20-something stubborn self is to have a greater appreciation of your credit file and not just see it as this something over here which is just annoying and it's very grown up, but actually really take time to deep dive into what your credit file means, understand all of the elements of it, and actually understand if things go well or don't go well, how long it takes, and if you have a ding on your report, how long does that take to repair? And if your credit's actually okay, then what can you do to maintain it? Because I think it takes far too long for the younger generation to genuinely appreciate how important your credit file is. And I kid you not, as I'm recording this video, about 5 minutes ago, I got a text message from one of my mentees who said, can I give him a call later on because he wants to talk about his credit file and getting a mortgage, because the penny has probably dropped to him that if he wants to go and get a mortgage, he needs to have good credit. So hopefully his credit isn't in too bad a situation, but he's now in his 30s asking me that question. It's never too late, but if he had an understanding, and I'm really talking about myself in my 20s, then the ride would have been a lot easier just by understanding the impact of credit and your ability to generate wealth and savings. But the impact that your credit file can have, not just in your personal life, but also in your business life, especially if you're an entrepreneur, then your credit will make a difference in some of the things that you're able to do. And that's it for this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please let me know down in the comments and really share with me what advice you would have given your younger self. Were you stubborn? Were you not stubborn? What do you think I've left out of this video that a 20-something-year-old should know about building savings, building wealth, and having financial success in their lives? And I'll catch you on the next video. Ultra and out.